Appreciate you joining me today. Hope you're doing well. We are going to be looking at when Moses is 40 years old and he goes out to his brethren in Exodus chapter 2. Our hymn today is the hymn, I Know the Lord Will Make a Way.
I know the Lord will make a way for me. I know the Lord will make a way for me. When my way I cannot see, seems there is no hope for me, I know the Lord will make a way for me.
And of course, we could easily apply this hymn to any number of situations in the passages around where we are reading. Of course, Moses' mother, when he is as she puts him in that basket, and as she nurses him and returns him to Pharaoh's daughter, we could certainly apply the hymn, I know the Lord will make a way for me. We could apply that to her. But come on with us to Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. It came to pass in those days, and this is when he's 40, Moses was grown that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, two Hebrew men were fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, Why are you striking your companion? And then he said, Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? So Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. This passage is spoken about a couple of different times, one time in Hebrews and one time in Acts. And it gives us some insight into things that are not necessarily addressed here. Let me get over to the Hebrews passage as we think about the Lord making a way for us. Let me get over to Hebrews, and it's in the Heroes of Faith in Hebrews chapter 11, as it speaks about in verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, so this is again Moses' mother, that he was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. Just notice this is not just as it speaks about it in Exodus itself. It's easy to read the Exodus passage. Oh, he went out to his brethren and he looked at their burdens. And he's just going out taking inventory for the day. That's not what's going on. According to Hebrews, he is, by faith, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with them. He is choosing to be a slave rather than a prince, because he esteemed the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. He looked to the reward. Those passing pleasures of sin and those things that were happening in Pharaoh's household. He realized, yes, this is a comfortable life. This is an enjoyable life. But there's something else. And certainly this Pharaoh is not God. There is a God, and his people are out there suffering. And so he chose rather to suffer affliction because he was looking eternally. He was thinking about heavenly reward. And so when we sing the song, I know the Lord will make a way for me, And Moses, he knew the Lord would make a way for him. He didn't fully understand everything that was going to happen. I don't know how he could have. But he chose to suffer with God's people. Now back to our passage. Notice verse 27 is actually after he kills the Egyptian, and Pharaoh hears about it. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Notice he saw him who is invisible. By faith he forsook Egypt. When he fled, not fearing the wrath of the king. I think it's sort of like Jesus. Don't fear those who can kill the body. I'll tell you who you should fear. And it's godly fear. And Moses, by faith, he forsook Egypt. And I'll say this, and let's go ahead and make this third point. The man back in Exodus, one of the Israelites, those two who are fighting, the two Hebrew men who are fighting, and one said, the one who did the wrong said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us?" I've never thought about that question. Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Well, when he was in Pharaoh's house, he would have been the prince. This account is actually spoken of in the book of Acts. Come over to the book of Acts. Because it's easy to say, well, Moses should not have done this. And maybe not. There's a verse in Acts though, and let's come all the way down to Acts 7. This is in the middle of Stephen. This that you're looking at is the end of Stephen's sermon. Of course, you see there at the bottom, they're about to stone Stephen. But Stephen's sermon ends with, "You stiff-necked and uncircumcised in hearts and ears, you always resist the Holy Spirit as your fathers did, so do you. Which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute?" Right? And they killed those who foretold the coming of the judge. Okay, you have the rest of it. But they always resisted the Holy Spirit. And that was Stephen's sermon. He goes through and he gives them time and time again where they resisted those who are godly and those who are wanting to do the right thing. They were resistant to God's ways. Well, in the midst of all those examples of their resistance, you have this account being referenced in verse 35. "This Moses, whom they rejected, saying, 'Who made you a ruler and a judge?' is the one God sent to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel who appeared to him in the bush." Now you can tell, like I said, they have a pattern of resisting God's people. Well, by faith, Moses refused to be called, right? According to that Hebrews passage, the son of Pharaoh's daughter. By faith he did that. He goes out and he is with his brethren. They are crying out, by the way. They are crying out to God. And when Moses tries to play mediator between these two brethren that are fighting, they reject Moses, saying, "Who made you a ruler?" And we know what Moses is going to do. Moses is going to end up, by faith, forsaking Egypt and going to Midian. And guess what? They're going to be in bondage another 40 years. When Moses does what he does, and he kills that Egyptian, he killed the Egyptian who, as it says, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. He looked this way and that way, he saw no one, and he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And they reject Moses. And perhaps we should make this point, because the Acts passage does not mention, I don't think, the killing of the Egyptian. So whether he should have done that or not, that's another question. But when he tried to mediate between his brethren, they rejected him for that. Now they bring up the killing of the Egyptian, but they reject him trying to make peace. And that's their pattern. They reject those who are trying to do the right thing. And Moses, in trying to mediate for those brethren, was trying to do the right thing. All that's to say, the hymn, I know the Lord will make a way for me. When he chose rather to suffer with God's people, I know the Lord will make a way for me. When he forsook Egypt and fled to Midian, I know the Lord will make a way for me. When his own brethren rejected him, I know the Lord will make a way for me. And it's the same for us. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.